Hit My Portfolio. Hit My Portfolio.
We have a listener on the line who has submitted their portfolio for our expert to have a look at and review and give them some thoughts on how they might be able to improve. We would love to welcome to Equity Mates, Brad. Brad, how are you?
Good, thanks, guys. How are you?
We are well. Thank you for submitting the portfolio. And in the studio, we have our financial advisor expert, Matt. Matt, how are you going?
Yeah, good. Great to be here.
Matt is from North Haven and is part of our advisor network. So, Ren, do you want to take us through Brad's portfolio?
Yeah. So, Brad's got a couple of ETFs and a few stocks and then some crypto. So, we'll start with the ETFs, which make up the bulk of the portfolio. He's got an Aussie shares fund, which is about 70% of the portfolio, then VDHG and VGS, taking it to a bit over 75%. Then we've got some individual names, Insurance Australia Group, Antipa Minerals, QXO, Nvidia, AMD, Catapult, and Telstra. And then to close it out, some Bitcoin and Ethereum, and a small allocation to meme coins as well. So, Matt, we like to start with a bit of a nickname. So what have you got for us today?
So this one with the large Australian allocation, I'll be quoting Daryl Kerrigan from The Castle, and I'll call this one, Tell Him He's Dreaming.
Tell him he's dreaming, okay. All right, well, Brad, tell us a bit about how this portfolio came to be.
I'm gutted. I thought I'd have a better nickname than that.
No, I don't say that in a nasty way at all. I purely, it's just a tie to the Aussie stocks. But yeah, tell us about it.
Well, I was going to say Scatterbrain goes to Ramwick or the Sydney racetrack.
No, I think there's too much thought that's gone into this portfolio. Yeah. You're too hard on yourself.
Not once I explain it to you.
Okay.
So I guess early in sort of mid 2000s, I came a bit of a Buffett fan and sort of thought, don't try and buy the market. So that's when I originally got my Vanguard, the Aussie one. So was kind of lucky enough and bought that in 2008. So at the time, it seems like it was pretty good timing. And then basically set and forget that. I haven't really contributed too much to that at all. The Telstra one was a bit of a one of my mates back in 2010 kind of said, it pays good dividends, you can't go wrong with it. And I bought a little bit of it, and it kind of boring but frustrates me. And similar with IAG, I still kind of laugh about IAG because I was given those because I was an NRA member back in the day. And I just still don't know why. I feel like I was a member with them for like 5 minutes, and all of a sudden they gave me some shares, and I've just reinvested them the whole time. So I still feel like that I shouldn't have been given those, but I've got them. And then sort of for quite a few years, I didn't really do much. That was the core of my portfolio, and sort of more focus on mortgage and extra money into super and things like that. And then the ADHD Scatterbrain sort of has kicked in recently, and that's where some of these other ones have kind of popped up recently.
Nice. Well, great. I didn't know the IAG story, so that was interesting. But I think
I still feel like they're after me.
Well, Matt, what are your initial thoughts?
Yeah, that puts a lot of context around this 70% holding in Australian shares. So if you've had that since 2008, hopefully you've done pretty well, and it's just been compounding and growing since, so that makes sense. Honestly, as soon as I saw IAG, I thought, yep, NRMA, here's another one.
Yeah, okay.
So you do see that a little bit, and yeah, look, you've got it. It's growing slowly. If you're going to have any insurance pick, then IAG is a good one. Owning an NRMA, it's one of the bigger ones, so you can stick with that. But look, obvious thing is huge allocation to Australia. So when you look through all of this, about 87 to 90% is in Australian stocks. Australia makes up about 2% of the global stock market. So, you're putting all your money into a tiny part of the market, really. 50% of that Australian shares index that you have, about 50% of that is made up of 12 companies out of 2,000 or so listed companies in Australia. So maybe just trying to diversify out of that a little bit, whether you're going international large caps. So if you're big on the index in Australia, then why not the index in the US as well, or other international stocks. But also getting some mid and small cap exposure. So it's quite easy to get exposure to some of these smaller names. Beta shares have SMLL, VanEck have QSML. The more active you can get in the smaller cap space, the better. But just thinking about some of those points to round it out, to maybe get away from such a heavy allocation to Australia.
So Matt, on that, I'm sure you've seen portfolios at North Haven where people have quite a, one consolidated line or heavy weighting towards something. For Brad in this situation, I'm sure he's got a fair bit of capital gains in that Australian shares fund if he's been holding it since the mid-2000s. How do you suggest he manages that? Do you suggest rebalance slowly over time with new allocations going to these other positions? Or do you suggest selling it, copying some of the tax and reallocating today?
I guess that depends, Brad. How actively are you contributing to this? You mentioned your mortgage before and super, you focused on that, but are you now allocating a bit of money towards this?
Just recently, but a bit of a twist, and obviously it's not, you can't give me personal advice, but yeah. I've got a company recently that has set up a trust, and so my advice has been to any future investments should go through that trust, and that's kind of thrown a bit of a spanner in the works because I know that I'm overweight in the Aussies, and it's almost like I need to start afresh again. So I guess I was thinking. Well, I was hoping with the recent bloodbath, I was excited to potentially get some indexes, but today that seems to have changed again. So I feel like I've missed the boat.
Oh, not necessarily. I mean, it was a good jump overnight, but who knows where to from here? It's just wild at the moment. So, look, obviously going to be a big gain on that if you've had it for the last 15, 16, 17 years. If you've got other investments going on elsewhere that can round it out, then that's fine. If this is purely going to be your investment play, then that there might be a case for selling down some of that. But again, being strategic with that, you got to weigh up, is the tax really worth it in the shorter term? But yeah, if you've got other investments going elsewhere, just focus on international elsewhere, and you can round it out. So your entire portfolio, not just in this brokerage account, your entire portfolio can be well-rounded. Doesn't have to all be in one place.
Let's assume, though, Matt, that for those listening in this position, that that Brad is contributing sort of regularly, but not huge amounts, and there's that 70% weighting. How would you suggest a rebalance? Is it over time or is it all at once?
No, I'd say over time.
Yeah.
You don't want to take too many big bets and say, I'm going to sell half my Aussie and put it into the US, and then Trump comes out with something in a week's time that blows up the US again. And it's just, the Aussie market does follow the US to some extent, but you don't want to take too many big bets. I think just slowly allocating, maybe just slow down on any allocations to the Australian shares and focus elsewhere. And things like, if you're putting money into Antipa.
Where'd you get that one from, Brad?
There's that Bryce's.
I think I've got a bit of a man crush on Luke Larrity, so it might have been a tip from him.
Nice. Well, let's have a look at some of the individual positions. Do you have any thoughts on the individual stocks in Brad's portfolio, Matt?
Yeah, look, I won't comment on Antipa. That's for Luke and Bryce to battle out. But yeah, we mentioned IAG before. Telstra, I agree. Telstra is boring, but it's a good one, and they had a reasonably good result earlier this year. And so while everything in the market's been falling over the past couple of weeks, Telstra's really held its ground. So some good exposure there. Catapult, look, I remember it wasn't too long ago watching the footy and thinking, why are all the dudes wearing sports bras now? What's going on? But when you look closer, it's all Catapult. So they're so dominant in that space. It's starting to operate a bit like a service as a software as a service business now. So a bit like Wise Tech or Technology One. There's some pretty wild movements in that. So when things are good, it's good. When things aren't good, it really comes down. So if you can stomach the volatility, then I think it's a great one to have, and especially since coming back a little bit, it's looking good. Nvidia and AMD. Look, you've obviously picked a winner there with Nvidia. Hopefully you've had it for a while, and it's had some of that run. But again, taking pretty big bet on that general semiconductor AI space by putting only 2 names in there. You might think about like a thematic ETF in this case, where unless you're really digging into these, a thematic like semi might make sense. NVIDIA might not run forever, but it is dominant. It might do well for a long time, but broadening that out with a thematic might make sense as well.
Nice. Well, Brad, did you have any final questions for Matt while you have the chance? Otherwise, I think there's been some good sort of points there for you.
Probably just 2. I may have in the shopping basket a few ETFs that I was sort of thinking of, to like what your advice was, like IVV, VEQ, or VAE, sort of to broaden that sort of exposure. And was like hoping that would be a potentially good option. But I was curious about what someone's thoughts might be on QXO. I may have topped up that a little bit in the few recent days as well.
Well, I mean, we did that segment on him a little while ago, Brad Jacobs, who has done this roll-up play 3 or 4 times before and is now doing it again. It's early days, though. Like, I don't even know if they've made their first acquisition. They were trying to buy something and the board blocked them. So I would say it's very early days.
It did go through.
Oh,
it did go through. It went through.
Yeah, I think it's jumped.
Yeah, okay. Did it jump on that?
I think so.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's been up and down, but yeah.
You're backing the manager more than anything. It's pretty speculative, but like if you're willing to take the risk, he's done it before.
Yeah, I think a focus on the broadening out that core before you take any big bets is probably wise.
Yeah. Love it. Well, Brad, thank you so much. We really appreciate you taking the time and submitting to Pimp My Portfolio. So I hope there's some things there that you can take away and put into place. But we really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for your time.
Nice
Easy.
one. Thanks, Brad.
Thank you.
I will say this about investing. Everything you do learn is cumulative. What I learned at 20 is useful.
Equity.